So, Michael, you might have heard there is a new show on Disney Plus, and it is called She-Hulk. Have you seen it?
Well, I saw one clip from it at one point, which was people saying it wasn't very good.
Well, was that the clip with Megan Thee Stallion and She-Hulk twerking?
Oh, you know what, actually, I've seen that, but I've also seen like a scene of them having like a fight in a courtroom, which wasn't very good.
Okay, well, have a look at this video that you'll be able to see, my recent likes, which has the caption, "Give the MCU a budget again, holy fucking shit."
Okay.
Just look, Michael.
Only a 10-second clip. Okay. It looks like The Sims.
It looks like a fucking GTA cutscene.
I know, wow, that's crazy. I mean, like, because video games are trying to be more photorealistic, so maybe films are like, or TV shows are like, hey, let's go the other way around.
How much money do Disney make?
Oh,
how can they not hire
not enough, clearly.
Yeah, like some good visual effects artists. Like, it looks like the video games I used to play back in the mid-2000s. Like, it's they're doing motion smoothing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. That is insanely bad.
But hey, at least that twerking scene looks really good.
Yeah, the Disney Plus subscription is worth it just for that.
Yes. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 15-year anniversary of a B movie by looking at a B movie. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about, it's not called a B movie, I don't know, I'm thinking of A Bug's Life, by telling us a thing or two about B movie.
Sure thing, Michael. Yes, you are right. We are doing this for its 15-year anniversary. And the reason why we're doing it for its 15-year anniversary, because normally, we do 20. In the past few weeks, we've done 2002 movies, of course, because, 20-year anniversary is normally the first anniversary where you look back on something, because it feels like now it's in the past, right? But 15 years, we don't often do that. But we'll make a special exception, I think, for B-movie. One of the weirdest movies ever produced by, it was produced by DreamWorks. This is a major animation company, and they put all their weight, along with one of the most famous comedians in the world, behind this movie, behind this B movie. So we have to look at it, and of course it has become a meme since it was released back in 2007. But yeah, it is an astounding movie in a lot of aspects. But anyway, so. B-Movie is a 2007 American computer animated comedy film produced by DreamWorks Animation, and it is directed by Simon J. Smith and Steve Hickner. It was written by Jerry Seinfeld. Have you heard of him, Michael?
I have. He has lots of really good observational comedy.
Of course he does, of course. Yeah, the American Michael McIntyre.
Yes, exactly.
As they call him over there.
Yeah.
It was produced by Jerry Seinfeld as well, and it stars Jerry Seinfeld, Renee Zellweger, Matthew Broderick, John Goodman, Patrick Warburton, and Chris Rock. The movie was released on November the 2nd, 2007 in the United States. So yeah, almost 15 years, but close enough. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for B-movie?
Well, I feel like Jerry Seinfeld is quite a cynical person. I feel like he's the kind of person, who wants to get that bank, and obviously.
Wait! Slow down there. Why would you say that?
I think it's just because he seems very old and cynical.
Jewish?
No, is Adam Sandler
Michael,
Jewish?
Yes, Adam
okay, because
Sandler
I was going to be like, no, it's true of Adam Sandler too, and I'm like, oh wait, that doesn't work. But it's not because he's Jewish.
This looks really bad for you.
It's right just now. Because he's a cynical kind of seeming person. So I would imagine.
How is he cynical? What are you talking about?
I don't know. Like it's just like he just seems like a lot of like footage I've seen of him. He seems kind of like he's sort of a little bit over the whole thing. Like he's just kind of over things.
I mean, that's his vibe. I'm not sure if he's like cynical per se. I think that's a different thing.
I see. Yeah.
The thing is, I wouldn't say he's after the money because I'm not anti-Semitic, and also because he did 9 seasons, I believe, of Seinfeld, and NBC offered him a 10th season of Seinfeld, I believe.
Mm.
Well, obviously they offered it because it was the highest rated show on TV, so they wanted him to come back for another year. And they offered to pay him how many millions of dollars per episode back in 1999, Michael?
$3 million.
$5 million per episode, with 26 episodes. So what's that? About 130 million, something like that. $130 million back in 1999.
So you convinced me that Seinfeld would have done this movie for free, in which case I think it was incredibly cheap.
What I'm saying is, from that, you literally turned down that much money, which again it wouldn't have been that hard to do. I don't really think he's that concerned with the money. But go on. What we were talking about the budget. How does that factor into your?
Well, I was just so I was thinking it would probably mean it's quite a lot. I mean, let's say, I think it's going to be quite a bit. Like, let's say 80 million?
Michael, you almost went less than half.
Oh, wow.
Because the budget for this movie, unbelievably, is $150 million.
Oh, wow. Well done me then.
This, when it was released, was one of the most expensive movies ever made.
That's crazy. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't you find that crazy? I
do find that crazy. No, yeah. I mean, I thought it would be kind of expensive, but that's crazy.
Especially considering, the movie isn't actually that long as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And also considering, do you think the animation is amazing?
No, I don't actually.
I would not describe this as incredible animation either. I would describe it as pretty below average animation, if I'm being honest. But anyway, Michael, how about the box office? How much did this rake in?
Well, it's interesting because I actually don't know how much of a kind of hit this film was at the time. Obviously, I know we're going to get into the fact it's kind of achieved a certain status after the fact. But I still assume it must have made a decent amount of money. So maybe it made 300 million?
Oh, that's a very good guess.
Oh.
Well done. A bad guess on the budget, a very good guess on the old box office, because the actual answer is 293 million. 293.5. So well done, Michael.
Oh, good. I'm happy with that. Okay.
Yeah, but were you happy with B-movie, Michael? Did you like B-movie?
Well, okay, I don't know if I've used this phrase before, but it was a phrase I thought of when I watched this film, which is I would describe this film as serviceable fun, meaning it's fine. It does its job. Like, basically, it's like when I was sat down for this film, I was enjoying it as much as I expected to, and I wasn't disappointed by it. I wouldn't say it's anything close to kind of up in the kind of higher echelons of what kind of animated movies can be. But I didn't actively dislike it. I kind of thought to myself, you know what, it's just kind of pretty much what I was expecting.
Okay,
and not awful.
The thing is that B joke you just made before
is why you hate it.
Well, I think that's why perhaps you found this serviceable fun.
Oh, because it's up my alley, isn't it?
Yeah, because you like those shitty puns which require no work at all, and you can just go through a dictionary, saying, oh, what context can I use the word be in?
Yeah.
Over and over again. And then I can produce a $150 million movie off of it. Obviously, there's more that went into it than that. It's not just that with the jokes. But yeah, I think this movie starts off fine in terms of introducing the secret life of bees, as it were. Like, this is what really goes on in the hive, kind of that Pixar thing. Like, oh, this is what,
Yeah, like basically just taking a thing and then, it's like the sweaters thing in Family Guy.
Yes, the sweaters thing in Family Guy, like the secret life of sweaters or Sausage Party. What?
Yes.
What if food was actually real, and of course bees are real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sentient.
Yes, exactly, sentience. Yes, and what if bees were sentience and intelligent and conscious? They'd be like humans, basically. A bit of a more ridiculous twist on it, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that bit is fine to start off the movie, and then once the plot, so you get the world building, of course, and then once the plot actually kicks into gear, then it just goes downhill. It's clear that Jerry Seinfeld and whoever else wrote this movie had a good idea of the bee world they wanted to introduce. Then when they got to the plot, they were just kind of I don't know, like a courtroom legal drama.
Yeah.
Sure, that sounds good. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get into that later. But firstly, Michael, how many nitpicks do you have?
I've got just 3. Well, I don't know if that's a lot, but
okay, I've got 1.
Okay.
Which is bees do not have stinger. Oh, sorry, male bees do not have stingers.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I am aware of this fact. This is a well-known fact that I think most people should, I would have thought, been aware of, but apparently not.
Oh, that's fun. So mine are one. Caffeine is technically an insecticide. I remember hearing that one time. Like that's why plants make it. So
That's interesting.
So the fact he drinks coffee, like he makes that joke about he'd be up for the rest of his life. Well, the rest of his life wouldn't be long. This one's just another one, which is Barry's dad retired? Because they make a reference to like I remember you used to come home and you'd still be stirring, but then they also make it pretty clear that bees don't retire because they work for the rest of their life. So I just thought that was a weird inconsistency.
Yeah, I think that is.
Yeah, because they very much seem to imply that the dad's working days are behind him.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe in the society, again, like they could have bothered to put this in the movie. Once you retire, you have to basically raise another bee. You know.
Oh yeah, so you still got something else to do. Yeah, maybe.
Yes. So you are working, not just like in a job. Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Now this one, I you could say maybe this isn't a nitpick, but it's kind of a nitpick because it's like a uniquely. So basically, the Ray Liotta animation just seemed like really bad. Like I don't know if it's just like that moment I kind of just was focusing more, or if it genuinely was uniquely bad.
Do you think there was some money laundering in this movie?
Oh, I think that's a very real probability.
I don't know. It just seems bizarre that the budget for this is $150 million.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld, as I've defended him from your anti-Semitic remarks before.
Yes.
I don't think he'd care that much about getting a huge paycheck because, of course, it's literally his idea. And he's got enough money, as him turning down that offer from NBC showed. He's probably a billionaire. Probably. Like I don't think he really needs to. Like, so I don't know how this movie got so much money. How much did Renee Zellweger cost? How much did the Ray Liotta and Sting cameos cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm surprised they didn't have Adam Sandler in it at this point.
I know, right? Anyway, so let's get on to the development of this movie, Michael, because this is interesting. So development of the B movie began when which director approached DreamWorks Animation?
Francis Ford Coppola.
You know what? You're not far off.
Oh, Martin Scorsese?
No.
Like I was thinking maybe it would be like a kind of crime thing because obviously he did.
No.
Just like famous directors.
Yeah, revered.
Okay, is it like Steven Spielberg?
You are correct.
Oh, okay, cool.
Steven Spielberg approached DreamWorks CEO and co-founder. You should know who this is.
DreamWorks CEO, isn't it like a Katzenberg? Is that his name?
Yes. Yeah. Jeffrey Katzenberg. Yes. And after Jerry Seinfeld asked him to make an animated film featuring insects.
Yes.
This was a Spielberg-Seinfeld project, but Spielberg dropped out because he was like, you know what, I've got better things to do. It's like how Spielberg, how George Lucas asked Spielberg to direct The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And Spielberg was like, nah, George, that's your thing. Like he's
very diplomatic as old Steven Spielberg.
Well, I'd like to think Spielberg had a quick flip through the script and was like, Jar Jar, icky goo, and was like, oh fuck it. You know what, George, this is your baby. I don't want to touch this, okay? And maybe he did the same with the B movie. Jerry Seinfeld was going on about insects, and he was just like, yeah, I'll take it to Katzenberg, but Jerry, I think this is your thing. I don't want to step on your toes here. He's a smart man. Is Spielberg? He knows what he's doing.
Yes.
He knows how to survive in this town. Anyway, so let's get on to the plot, Michael. So Barry B. Benson, a bee who has just graduated from college, is disillusioned at his lone career choice, making honey. On a special trip outside the hive, Barry's life is saved by Vanessa, a florist in New York City. As their relationship blossoms, he discovers humans actually eat honey, and subsequently decides to sue humanity.
It's not awful. It's definitely silly. I think what's kind of interesting about it is obviously the other kind of insect films, obviously Ants and A Bug's Life, there is no human element to it at all. So I don't know why, I just find it kind of interesting that this film decides to kind of buck the trend by being like, no, let's make it like the conflict between humans and insects kind of central. That was something I noticed that was interesting about this. And I will say, I think it kind of like, It means the film kind of steps on its own toes, I guess, because usually with like these Bugs Life and all that, there's social commentary, or like it's about society, but the point is like, human society is absent from it. Whereas in this case, you've got like both things going on. It's kind of about society, but then it also features society.
Well, I guess so. But let's just skip the whole.
Yeah.
You're delving a bit too deep into things, Michael.
No, yeah, I know. Yeah, we're just on the premise. Okay.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the fact that this is a movie where a bee falls in love with a human woman.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's funny.
And then also sues humanity for them taking all of the bee's honey.
It's a bit silly.
Nobody but Jerry Seinfeld could get this movie to be made. I think this is what he was doing all the years after ending the most successful TV show in history. He was just writing or thinking about B-movie.
Yeah.
And I think this movie, or part of the reason why it exists, is clearly just because of the pun in the title.
Yes.
That's what probably drew Jerry Seinfeld to it. And there's this plot line in Seinfeld in season 4, I think, where they are pitching ideas to NBC as Jerry's trying to get a show on the network. Because he's this comedian in the actual Seinfeld universe.
Yes.
Although he isn't as successful, obviously. And they come up, George and Jerry, with these stupid ideas. And this feels like it could be one of them, Like a bee movie. And, the bee falls in love with a woman and sues humanity for taking all the honey, And, that would be a really funny scene. Also, I'll say it is very unimaginative as well. In terms of the plot, and that is kind of what Seinfeld's comedy is, focusing on the minutiae of life, observational comedy. You can tell when watching Seinfeld what line comes from Seinfeld, what line comes from like Larry David, or what scene comes from Larry David. But anyway, Seinfeld, I think in general, like I said, his comedy is very unimaginative, would be a harsh way to phrase it, but I think it's appropriate when you talk about B-movie, because what would happen in a movie about bees, like B-movie, well, the bee just interacts with human society, obviously, and there's also a court plot with, with bees suing humans. You have this concept of a B-movie, and you just make it almost like a Seinfeld episode in some ways, because that kind of stuff would happen on the show. Like Jerry would be trying to get with this woman who, obviously Jerry's not a bee in Seinfeld, of course.
Yes, that is true.
It'll be the same kind of concept, and then they'd be suing, or you can imagine they'd be involved in a stupid court case. Like that would probably be a George storyline more than anything,
Yeah.
Anyway, Michael, why else is this movie famous?
Well, I think like the main reason is because of the memes. Like it's that simple. I mean, like this was one of those films. I guess, or maybe I was gonna say films, but are there any other films? Because I know, like obviously there was the kind of "We Are Number One" song from Lazy Town, and there was "Steamed Hams" from The Simpsons, and they kind of like there was the whole thing of like this particular media, but every single time they say X, Y, Z, like that kind of like a meme that is still going kind of strong today. But yeah, I feel like maybe Shrek. Shrek's the other example. Duh.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll get into that in a bit, but let's just give you a background on the memes. So, years after the film's release, B-Movie had an unexpected rise in popularity as an internet meme. In 2015, posts of the entire film's screenplay spread across Facebook. In November 2016, YouTube user Avoid at All Costs uploaded a video called "The Entire B-Movie, but every time they say B, it gets faster."
Yes.
Where the entire film sped up every time the word B was used. And you know what? I watched that before before this review. Have you seen it recently?
I haven't seen it recently. I will say what I have seen recently, just because I need to say this, is an ASMR version of the entire B-Movie. And you can literally sync it up with the actual, like animation, and it works, which is crazy. So there's like, just like, "You're stealing all of the bees' honey. It's not okay."
Okay. Anyway, so its popularity spawned several variants where the film was edited in unusual ways. Vanity Fair later said the film's popularity was totally bizarre, and later identified Jason Richards as one of the meme's largest promoters through his Twitter account, citing the off-brand Pixar quality. And I think that's part of it, I guess. Yeah, it's just a shitty version of like a Pixar movie. Like we talked about Toy Story, like, The Secret Life of Toys, this is The Secret Life of Bees, and it's just It's just a shitty version of that, yes indeed, with some ridiculous stuff thrown in. Paris Martineau of New York Magazine identified the memes started on Tumblr in 2011, at which point users posted the opening quotation, identifying it as inspiring. What's the opening quotation, Michael?
Yeah, of course. According to all known aviation science or whatever it is, there is no reason why a bee should be able to fly.
Absolutely, but they still can. They still can.
Yes, the bee doesn't care.
However, by December 2012, these posts had become so ubiquitous that it would inspire parodies. Wow, who could have thought, eh? It was suggested that the spread of videos such as the entire Bee movie, but every time they say bee, it gets faster, was inspired by the preceding popularity of the We Are Number One memes.
Ah, good reference, me.
Yes, many of which used a similar title format of We Are Number One, but Seinfeld, however, expressed no interest in making a sequel to Bee Movie through its online popularity. Isn't that a shame, Michael?
No, yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking to myself, I know one of the reasons why we sometimes review a film is if there's a sequel coming out, and I was thinking to myself, is there a sequel coming out? And I was like, there definitely isn't. We're definitely just doing it because of the anniversary. And I went on that hunch, and I was unsurprised to find out that I'm not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think releasing sequels based off internet memes is a good idea.
No, yeah.
I'm not sure it's a financially sound idea. So yeah, I guess because of your characterization of Seinfeld, that makes sense to you.
Yes, exactly. Yes. He would have said, if there's no money in it for me, I've got no interest.
Yeah, as we can see from Morbius, of course.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Is that not doing? I didn't actually follow because obviously I know they re-released it. Is there any news about that not doing well, having been re-released?
Well, of course it was re-released after the internet memes.
Yeah,
and it got it made so little at the box office. Sony may have lost money.
Oh dear.
Putting it back out there. So yeah, not a good financial move to re-release or make a new sequel of a movie based on internet memes. So Seinfeld, maybe that's his reason. But yeah, why is this movie? I mean, Michael, why?
Well, that is an interesting question. I mean, part of it, obviously, with the whole meme thing, it has to be said it's kind of arbitrary, but that doesn't really explain all of it, of course, because
I think I have an idea.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your idea. I feel like maybe I could come up with my own explanation, but I'll hear what you have to say.
I think it's a relatively simple explanation. This movie is stupid.
Yes. No. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Obviously, you mentioned
Morbius.
The fact that Morbius is one thing. I was thinking of specifically the fact that there's a romance between a bee and a human.
Yes.
And that is very dumb, and I think that's why people relate to it.
It's like, how was this movie actually made? Just a massive movie with Jerry Seinfeld. Probably the most famous comedian in history, with a stupid plot, some bestiality thrown in there as well.
Bestiality, if you want to be hilarious.
You know what? They should have made that joke.
I don't know if they can have. I don't know if bestiality puns are in right now.
Anyway, all the jokes are just puns revolving around the word bee, as you just proved then.
Yes, exactly.
You look back at, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Oh, well, actually, there have been dumb animated movies that have been released recently, but I feel like the 2000s, with the success of movies like Shrek, in particular, inspired a lot of, not copycat because none were good or were really shit, but animated movies where, we can just kind of do adult humoured kind of jokes and kids will watch it because it's cartoony.
Yeah.
And the quality was really bad. And this is one of those movies, but it's just the stupidest. And also it stars Jerry Seinfeld as well.
I think people find maybe the idea of when big projects aren't very good, it's almost kind of dragging kind of serious corporate society into millennial nonsense, and I feel like there's something that people find cathartic about that.
Yeah, it's like all these smart, rich people came together to make this. Isn't that hilarious?
Yes.
Let's meme it.
It's like Cats.
Yeah, Cats was bizarre, really, wasn't it? Yeah, Cats was crazy. Anyway, so the thing is, why did Cats memes not take off in the same way? I guess just because the cats look just very weird,
Yeah.
So let's get into the old plot now, Michael. By the way, the main character, Barry Benson, there was also a Mississippi state politician that was named Barry Benson. Did you know that?
Oh, really? And he was a B too, thus inspiring this film.
Well, he was actually a D.
Oh, a Democrat?
Yes, in the
Ah.
South.
In Mississippi.
Yeah, in the 1840s.
Oh, that makes him good then. Okay, that's fine then. Like, so he was the good kind of Democrat.
Okay, so Barry B. Benson, and I love how it just says that at the top of the B movie, like Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, so Barry B. Benson, an idealistic honeybee who has the ability to talk to humans. I don't know why they specify that because
Everyone does in this, yeah.
Yeah, every bee can. Has recently graduated from college, and immediately we get the humour, Michael. Well,
Yes.
Look, all
bees.
all bees wear the same stuff, and I think you just mentioned one of the jokes, but yeah,
Yes.
it's just a lot of jokes about bees and literally the letter B. Oh, look, you got all bees on your report card. I can't believe it, etc.
Yes.
I like the stuff that Jerry Seinfeld would absolutely love. I can imagine him being so happy with himself when writing that. Like, how about I can't believe it. I can't really do a Jerry Seinfeld impression.
Yeah, I can't really do it either. Like,
yeah.
What are you doing making a movie about bees? That's stupid.
That sounds Italian American.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can't. Anyway, but no,
what
yeah.
if instead of getting A's on the report card,
We got bees.
They got bees instead. Huh? Huh? How about that, Elaine? Yeah,
that is classic.
Then we get some nice canned laughter in the background, and yeah, the next scene, Jerry is on to dating his 94th girlfriend of that season of Seinfeld. But that's the thing; it just feels like, again, just all these B jokes. It's like, oh yeah, Jerry Seinfeld was absolutely loving that. He'd have a smile on his face, and he just finds stuff like that intrinsically funny based on the type of comedy you sometimes see in Seinfeld.
Yes.
But look, sometimes the humour is so stupid that I can back it, but it just feels very lazy a lot of the time.
Gosh.
And it doesn't seem from the tone that the movie is in on the joke, about how stupid these bee puns actually are.
Yeah.
The movie seems to be just like, yep, that's another joke about bees. We hope you unironically enjoyed it. That seems to be the attitude, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I will say there was one moment where I thought they kind of were like playing into it, which is the bee Larry King scene. And the reason why is because it's kind of like, it felt like a bit of a fourth wall break, where it's like, they have a, I don't know, I'm just going to accept the fact I can't do his voice, so I'm going to kind of do a vague impression of it. They have a Larry King in the human world too. And then obviously he's like really stressing how it's basically just the same thing.
Yeah. Here's a good tip, try and like close your nose as you do it, because he's quite a nasally voice.
Hey, they have a,
They have a Larry King in the human world as well.
I mean, you just don't.
No, that time I wasn't even doing voice.
You just don't sound anything like him. That's the problem.
Oy vey, they have a Larry King in the human world as well.
And now close your nose, and now you've got it. Yeah.
Oy vey, they have a Larry King in the human world as well. It's basically the same thing. He has all the stuff in the background, and it's got the quotes from the person, and it says what they already said, even though you just heard them say it.
It's pretty good impression.
But you gotta go, he's got the stuff in the background. Like, he elongates the last word of a sentence. We'll just move on. I don't know if that'll be included, but...
Better be.
Okay. But yeah, I think the Larry King one, yeah, it was interesting, because it was like, oh, that is kind of a fourth wall break.
Yeah, because it's like, obviously they're literally just touching on the fact that it's Larry King, but he's a bee.
Being in on the joke of how lazy it is.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's the only time I think that actually happens. But yeah, anything else to say on the humour, Michael? I'm guessing you liked it a bit.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, it definitely is dumb. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. But I feel like a lot of the time with these animated films, I'm kind of just like, it's not as if the film is a comedy, if that makes sense, because it's kind of like a lot of animated films. This isn't necessarily a good thing, because I'd say it's more about the plot, which obviously, doesn't necessarily improve things that much. But it's kind of like, obviously, you look at like other films like Toy Story and Bug's Life and, Ants or whatever else. Obviously, if they've got funny jokes in them, that's good, but they don't have to have funny jokes in them. So I would say, like, in a way, the fact that the film doesn't have funny jokes is not a problem in itself, and it's like not terrible that the jokes are there are a bit like lame, is kind of my take. But it's obviously just not a positive.
Okay, fair enough. I just find the humour, again, lazy, and I think they know it's lazy, but they don't, they're not in on the joke, so it just creates like eye rolling, like I didn't really eye roll because I was like, well, this is what this movie is, but it ain't great. The humor, it's not up my street. I think it's fair to say. But anyway, so Jerry Seinfeld is voicing Barry B. Benson, Michael, as we've said, and again, his name starts with all B's. Get it? They did. They created that in 2 minutes, didn't they?
Yes.
Anyway, right. The thing is, his voice does not fit with the character. These type of protagonists in these animated movies, aimed at kids, really a lot of the time, I would say, don't sound like 54-year-old nasally people who have a high pitched voice as well. They sound like Chris Pratt, of course.
Yes, but not with an Italian accent.
Yes, exactly. A normal accent, yeah.
Yes.
That's the thing. They have kind of just a generic young American accent. They don't sound like Jerry Seinfeld. And that's the thing. Barry, because, he should sound a lot younger than he does. It's a key part of his character, I think, his youth, because he's meant to be idealistic and ambitious. Yeah, Seinfeld's voice just sounds the opposite of that. It sounds like it's quite comedic as well, his voice as well, of course, and it's a bit exasperated, but he doesn't sound like he's in his, he's just graduated from college, does he? So I don't think it's a good fit.
He doesn't sound like he's only a few days old. Of course, he hilarious. I'm glad he took that day off in high school or whatever it was.
College, obviously.
Yes, yeah. Yes, of course. People don't take days off in high school. But no, yeah, I agree. Like, it is a weird choice. I mean, in a way, like, in some sense, the idea of having, Jerry Seinfeld voice an animated character, it does make sense in that, like, it's kind of like how Will Smith voiced an animated character. Like, you have this thing of, like, well, there's a really big celebrity. You've got to have them do an animated character.
Yeah, but Will Smith's... You're thinking of Shark...
Yeah.
Yeah, for Shark Tale, Will Smith's voice fit that character.
Yes, fits the character, yeah. So, I guess I agree. Like, that's the thing. He sounds as much like Larry David as Larry David sounds like... Sorry, Larry David? Larry King, sorry, I meant to say.
Larry, come on, don't get your Jewish people.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But no, yeah, like, the thing is, he sounds kind of as much of, like, an old complainy man as his dad or anything like that. So...
He does, yeah.
Yeah, that definitely is a bit jarring. And I think that probably also adds to kind of just the meminess of it, that you have this guy who's just, like, obviously Seinfeld. Yeah. It's basically just watching Seinfeld riff.
Yes.
As a bee.
as a bee. Watch Jerry Seinfeld as a bee. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, of course, having watched as much Seinfeld as I have, I think obviously everyone knows this. Jerry Seinfeld is not a good actor. But that's part of the beauty of it, because like when he's like trying to be angry in Seinfeld, like he can't really do it, just because I think of his personality as well, and it's just like it just creates it's just because it's a comedy, sitcom. It's a sitcom, so it's like, this guy's trying to be funny. He's trying to be angry, but that he can't really do it, so that's naturally funny, and it does work. But in this movie, you can tell it really does hinder him when Barry Benson is like when he gets hit by the rain, and like he's screaming as he crashes into like a flower pot thing, and he has to like show emotion, and he just can't do it because he's just not able to. And like his screaming just sounds so fake, and it doesn't really work without the canned laughter, in the background. Yeah, so he's just an unserious guy in general, and it was like, his acting as well leaves a bit to be desired. Of course, it's like a little criticism in the grand scheme of things, but it's like I don't think he would be good for this role really at all. I think he would. I'm fine with him being in the movie, but I don't know what role you'd have him in this movie. You'd probably have to create another role for him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you could have him be like basically have the same thing, but he's just not like an idealistic young person who's just entering into the world for the first time. Like, and that would almost kind of get you there in terms of like...
What if he was like Kevin Spacey in American Beauty?
Yeah, that's it.
Going through a midlife crisis. Yeah, that would work, I think, a lot better. Yeah. Anyway,
let's have Kevin Spacey as an insect in a movie.
Okay, yes. Anyway, so Barry is about to enter the hive's Honex. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, Honex, yes.
Yeah, industry's honey-making workforce with his best friend, Adam Flayman, which is a weird name. Is that a pun? It doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, Flayman? I can't think, unless like Flay's like some kind of weird bee pun I've never heard of before.
Yeah, it sounds similar to Flyman, but I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Barry is initially excited to join the workforce, but his ambitious, insubordinate attitude emerges upon discovering that his choice of job will never change once picked. So, this I think is decent, because what are bees known for, Michael?
Wanting to have choices. No, they're known for like the kind of hive mind, or like kind of I don't know. Yeah, of course, hive mind. Literally, it's in the name. So yeah.
Well, they're known for obviously being good workers, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Worker bee. That's another expression.
Yeah, the old phrase, "I'll be as busy as a bee," or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, how about a character who didn't really want to work, or just be like a worker bee, you know, who wanted to do more, who wanted to explore the world, you know, and you can then incorporate the there's more to life than this kind of cliche that the protagonist feels, you know, and the protagonist feels stuck at the start of the movie. It's like, oh, there must be more to life than this. And that works, of course, really well with bees, as they, again, just work until they die, and they're very busy. And so, yeah, his character makes sense in terms of wanting to escape the hive. His motivations make sense. So, you know what, I'll give the movie a credit, you know, that does work quite well. Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, obviously, it's kind of the whole, you know, like want versus need thing, which is obviously, I mean, you know, and that's not the only thing, but like, I agree with you. Like the fact of you take, you know, like one of the important things to do is like take the aspect of the thing that you're making sentient and say, well, what is it about this thing that would kind of work for an individual character's story? So, you know, and obviously, I mean, they kind of do the same thing with Bug's Life, and ants, actually, where obviously, which again makes sense because ants kind of are also like a super organism kind of thing. And again, you have the idea of like, well, the main character doesn't really want to go along with that. The main character is an independent thinker or whatever else. And of course, ants also, he's Jewish. Crazy. But yeah, basically, so you kind of do that. But obviously, it works for other things, like, you know, I mean, Lego, you know, the Lego movie, it kind of works as well, because like with Lego, there's the whole thing about being creative versus following the instructions and all that kind of stuff. Like, and that's kind of what the character's motivation is about. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to do, and they definitely do succeed at doing it here. Yeah. At least in terms of like the basic premise.
The issue with his character arc is you do the whole want versus need thing, obviously. Yeah. Well, you talked about that. So he wants to explore, but what does he actually really need to do in this movie?
Well, yeah, I suppose actually now I think about it, the want versus need thing really comes along with the like court case thing where he wants the bees to be able to just lounge around and do nothing. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, his initial motivation of wanting to explore, I suppose, isn't really developed.
Then he
just goes out and just does it.
Yeah, then he figures out, oh, I need to defend bees or whatever, I need to help bees. But he seems very enthusiastic to try and immediately help bees. It's not a question of like want/need. Really, they don't really do that at all, and or have that conflict within him. Like he immediately, we'll get onto that later. But yeah, again, his character arc, I think it starts off well. His motivation's good, but then it just doesn't really go into place you'd want it to go if it was to be a good character arc. But anyway, so later the two bees run into a group of pollen jogs, bees who collect pollen from flowers outside the hive, and they offer to take Barry with them. I like this concept, I have to say. This is a good idea. This is what I'm talking about, like at the beginning of the movie, I think, all the like the bee world building, I guess. It's the strongest part of the movie. Like I like this. I think it's good. I don't know. Do you agree?
Well, yes. Although it's worth noting, it is a little bit like exactly what happens in Ants, where
I don't care.
Z wants to go out with the soldiers, and then he goes and they fight a bunch of termites. So there we go. Right. There's my counterpoint. But no, yeah. Overall, I mean, I would agree that it's a fun thing. And
well, I'm not talking about him specifically. I'm talking about like the
idea of this being a thing in the bee world.
Yes, like the jocks. You know, the coolest ones are the ones that get the pollen. You know.
Yes.
Yes, they're the ones that have the most dangerous job. That I like that. That makes sense. Anyway, while on his first pollen gathering expedition in New York City, Barry then gets lost in the rain. Firstly, of course, it's set in New York City, because it's a movie with Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes.
So it has to be, of course it would be set in Central Park as well, Yeah. Like, is there any other place in the world than New York and Central Park?
No, I don't think so.
Who knows, but Jerry Seinfeld has never been to it, that's for sure. And yeah, I like how he explores stuff and gets separated from the group with them being attracted to tennis balls. I think that's good, that's clever, and obviously how he can't get back to the hive because of the rain, and that of course was set up before, and then it pays off, and it's explained, and you know, how the movie mocks bees for being dumb about getting attracted to the tennis balls and not
And then
understand-
also can't get through the window.
yeah, don't understand the concept of windows and just think, what does he say? Like, oh, this is torture or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why would someone make this? Yeah, I find that quite funny. So yeah, all of that stuff, you know, is good. But then Barry ends up on the balcony of a human florist named Vanessa Bloom. Good name, right, Michael?
It's a very good name.
Vanessa Bloom.
Because I'd forgotten that was her name, as I kind of mentioned, and I hadn't really picked out that was her name, but yeah, we do love our kind of ridiculous kind of. I don't know what the word is for it, but just like, yeah, when someone has a name. Oh, I guess like it's kind of like the Batman thing, right? Like punny kind of names.
Yes, yes. Or Spider-Man, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, upon noticing Barry, Vanessa's boyfriend Ken attempts to squash him. But Vanessa gently catches and releases Barry outside the window, saving his life. So this is where the movie starts to go downhill, okay? And it's when we actually start getting into the plot of B-Movie. Barry is, of course, attracted to this human female who saved his life. And we also learn that apparently bees can talk to humans, but they just don't because of these bee rules.
Yeah.
Which to me seems incredibly stupid. Like, humans, it's established throughout the movie that humans can hear bees when they talk, like, quite clearly. I don't know, it seems rather ridiculous, Michael.
No, yeah. I would agree. Like, I mean, obviously, there's no reason for the rule. Like, it's kind of interesting how...
Well, it's to explain it away.
Yeah. But, like, it's kind of interesting how irrelevant it is, like, when he actually does. Like,
That's
you'd
a
almost
good
think,
point,
like, the logical thing to do, or, like, what you'd expect is that the film would be, like... Because we've mentioned the fact that he dates a human, and you would kind of think to yourself, oh, wow, that's really weird. Like, kind of how the central thing in Stuart Little is they've adopted a mouse. That's weird. And you kind of think, yeah, like, it would be the same thing here. Like, oh, he's dating a human. Like, how does her family react? How does, you know, like, I mean, obviously, we already see how boyfriend reacts, but kind of, like, I guess, taking it in a more serious way rather than just being, like, this irrelevant dude on the side. And then, obviously, how does Barry's family react? But the reality is there's throwaway lines about, you're doing that, you're not supposed to do that, that's crazy, blah, blah, blah. But nobody actually... Like, it's not a major kind of plot point. Like, the fact their relationship is against the rules and kind of shouldn't be viewed as legitimate is not a major point in the film.
Yeah. No.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is true. Yeah, they just kind of like have it there, and it's not really acknowledged too much, is it?
No.
Yeah, which is, of course, you know, a bee dating woman you'd imagine would get some attention. So obviously, you know, I just think with the language thing, what could happen is that we could get a montage of Barry being, you know, attracted to this woman, so he wants to learn how to speak English. So he can talk to her. So maybe he flies to the next apartment, and a mum is teaching her little kid, you know, English. So Barry then copies, you know, that. So he learned, and then he can read books and so on. And then, you know, after, you know, a couple of days, maybe he gets, you know, he's able then to converse with Vanessa. I don't know. It just seems stupid that all of a sudden bees can talk, but but of course they you know, they just haven't, you know, throughout their history. This is why with Ratatouille, of course, the rat can't speak English or French. Or whatever makes sense in that regard, and because it's inherently stupid that the rat can speak English.
Yeah, and I mean, also it's the fact that it kind of means like there's no reason why they would need to keep it a secret. Within like the internal logic of the film, which then makes the question of like, well, why is there any kind of conflict at all? And you can't help but feel, I mean, it's kind of crazy, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but it's kind of crazy how like as soon as he speaks and kind of makes his presence known as like an actual person with, you know, a desire for certain rights and things like that, it's kind of everyone sort of has to go along with it because obviously,
Also, speaking of the plot again, the whole plot doesn't need to involve humans. Like we said, Seinfeld isn't imaginative, so of course he has to get humans involved. A romantic storyline between a bee and a human female, and it's played rather seriously. God, it just feels so much like a 30 Rock skit. It just feels like. So it crosses the line of like, because obviously there are some. You suspend your disbelief more in animated movies, especially, you know, if it's a movie about a sentient, intelligent bee. You just go a bit too far there, and again, that's where the meme comes from. or the memes, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Barry later returns to express his gratitude to Vanessa, breaking the sacred rule that bees are not to communicate with humans. Like you said, Michael, not actually that sacred, is it?
No.
Yeah. Barry and Vanessa develop a close friendship, bordering on attraction, and spend time together. When he and Vanessa are in the grocery store, Barry discovers that the humans have been stealing and eating the bees' honey for centuries. Okay, so suddenly, the plot immediately takes a sharp turn into this plot line. So I thought Barry and Vanessa would spend more time together, and then we'd get into the whole human stealing honey plot thread, because I think it's literally the second time they are having a conversation.
Yes.
That's when he discovers the honey, and I knew that was going to happen, obviously, because I've seen all the memes and I know what happens in the movie. But I was really surprised how quickly it happened. You need time to let the plot line with Vanessa and Barry develop before you then immediately go into another plot line which is completely separate to that one. You agree with me, right?
Yes, yeah, I do. Like, it does come. Well, I was going to say out of nowhere, that's not so. But no, yeah, I agree with you in terms of, like, it feels like this film sort of just keeps introducing new things, so rather than being like a progression, because obviously, I mean, you have the whole he wants to go out and explore thing, but then he does it, and then after that, it's not really a driving motivator of his. He wants to date this woman, but then he does it, and it's kind of okay, and there's no, like, it's not, this film is not a relationship drama. There are no kind of ins and outs or like ups and downs to their relationship at all.
You thought that is what would happen, right?
No, yeah, exactly.
But they don't really establish the relationship, really.
Yeah.
So they can't do that because they immediately go into another plot
exactly.
thread. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So then it's just like suddenly it's like, okay, they're in a relationship, and now this other thing, it's completely irrelevant thing, or not irrelevant, but like completely kind of going off on its own thing. Yeah, separate. That's yes.
It completely, immediately, this plot thread then completely supersedes the Barry and Vanessa romantic plot thread, which maybe it's not a bad thing, but in terms of actually, because it's a stupid plot thread, but in terms of actually making a good coherent movie that ain't good, it was a case of Jerry Seinfeld and these writers. You said they weren't progressing stuff, they were just adding stuff. They were like, well, they wanted to include this idea clearly. I think Jerry Seinfeld definitely did. I could see him doing a stand-up bit about, if I was a bee, I'd be so mad at humans for we steal
my honey.
We steal
Where's
their
my honey?
Yeah, we steal their honey, and they don't get anything back for it. We treat them as slaves. Like that kind of, which is kind of ridiculous, but also a bit, it's observational comedy, obviously, but it's also just a bit ridiculous, which is kind of his Seinfeld sweet spot, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine this was definitely his idea, like, humans suing bees suing humans, because of course, the bees have to do something that again is like, what a human being would do. What would a human being do in this situation? They'd sue, because that's what you do. That's what. So obviously the bees are going to sue as well. So yeah, there you go. That is definitely a Seinfeld idea down to a T, and also. Does it, again, we talked about this before, does it really fit in with Barry's arc? Because the thing is, he wants to explore, and then all of a sudden he wants to be a defender for bees. It's like it's totally often the same thing. He's not like concerned that bees at the start of the movie, how they're being disrespected. That would make sense that then he jumps to the defense of bees. And people are just mad at him, for not being a typical bee. But he's saying, no, I'm defending bees in a different way. But he's like, he just wants to he seems to have a selfish motivation. And then all of a sudden,
now he's altruistic.
Yeah, and now he suddenly wants to defend his bee people.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they wanted to do something, what they could have is they could have him be like, he's really into humans, and like he like kind of like a Little Mermaid. Like he's there like looking out like, I wish I could be living in New York. Anyway, and with that said, then like you'd get kind of the character arc where like he maybe has an idealized view of human society, because he comes from like bee land where like no one has any freedom or whatever, or like it's all, so he's like, hey, I wish I could be a person, going to the beach, playing, doing that. And then he finds out about the whole bee exploitation, and he's like, wait a minute, this whole thing's built on exploitation.
What would be good is, so he becomes part of the human lifestyle. You know, he kind of rejects the bees, his family. He alienates himself from his family, from his friend fucking Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden one day, like, so he's completely separate from the bee community, like he's an outcast. Then one day he discovers honey, and then somehow, some way, I'm not sure, he meets Adam again, and he tells him about the honey, and Adam is then outraged because obviously, like, he wants to help bees. That's what his character seems to be about. So therefore he's saying, oh, we've got to do something about this. They're stealing our honey. And Barry is like, well, I don't know, I kind of like humans, you know. And then his character arc is being convinced, no, you need to stand up for your own kind. You know, you need to stand up for the bees and take back the honey. And then eventually he does, and he needs to do that because he's the only one that can communicate with the humans. Something like that. So it needs to be him. And there you go. There's a much better, I guess, plot and a much better character arc for your main character. But anyway, I can't believe we're doing this about B movie. You know.
I know.
Anyway, so all the humans, of course, seem very evil because they seem like kind of normal, like just what you'd expect humans to be, just with a bit of, you know, a comedic twist here and there. When Barry interacts with them, and then suddenly when it turns to honey production, all the humans are very evil.
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up because I found that funny because, like, obviously the thing is, like, it doesn't make any sense that, like, they would actively dislike bees, especially considering the fact that I mean, like, obviously they think that bees are just like mindless bugs because they can't talk to them, so it's just like this, like,
yeah, the beekeepers are mocking bees, saying their brains are the size of like pinheads or whatever. It's just like, well, so suddenly humans are evil now in this world, like, and cartoon. Well, it is a cartoon, but you know what I mean, like cartoonishly evil. Like we've gone into the realm of just like being stupid and over the top and ridiculous. Even more so.
I mean, of course, you also get the guy who is like so angry at the bee that he decides to fence the bee with a
the Hispanic guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hector.
Again, it's weird, and I'm not sure really. Yeah, well, I guess they have to do it. They have to make the humans seem evil because obviously Barry has to seem incredulous at the poor treatment of the bees in the hive, including the use of bee smokers. To incapacitate the colony.
They make the honey and we make the money.
Yeah. That sounds like a Homer Simpson line. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, Barry decides to then, of course, sue the humans because the bees are being exploited. But I was just sitting back wondering, are bees treated badly in beekeeping? Because I thought they were treated like fine. Like,
well, yeah. I thought like beekeeping I've always thought of as pretty like kind of wholesome. As kind of like an activity. I mean, you know, like I'm pretty sure, like I will say this, probably if bees were conscious, then, or like not you know, like if bees had like kind of that higher level of kind of intelligence, then probably the way they're treated would be classified as cruel.
That's the thing,
they don't.
They don't, and humans in this universe are not aware that bees do have. They think they're like bees in our world, from what we can tell. Yeah. So therefore, they wouldn't have an ethical problem with doing this because the bees they aren't conscious. You know.
Yeah. You know what's kind of funny actually? Like, imagine if this was about chickens. So the problem with that is it wouldn't really work because the way this works is that it doesn't actually. It's not too serious because we all know that there's nothing wrong with the way bees are being treated because, like, you know, it's fine. And I was just thinking to myself, like, you know, they could make the movie about like chickens because obviously like the majority of kind of ways that animal products are used in like, you know, kind of capitalist human industry is exploitative and evil.
But beekeeping seems at the bottom of the list, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, and then I was thinking like the reason why they couldn't do that is because it's too serious. Like they couldn't actually have a movie about how horribly like chickens are treated. Like, you know, you kind of imagine Jerry Seinfeld shows up as a.
I think they could though. Go on, but
well, okay. I was gonna say like Jerry Seinfeld shows up and he's like in one of those like massive kind of like battery hen farms, and you got like the chickens of like the broken legs because they've been bred to be like, and then he's just like, "What are you doing? You don't breed them like that. It makes the legs break."
Again, your Seinfeld impression is incredible.
I know, it's great.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You could do that, but then the thing is, then the movie turns into a very pro animal rights movie. Then this movie, then it's not just a movie about a stupid fucking movie about bees, or chickens, it'd be in this chicken movie, an animal rights movie advocating for the better treatment of
Yes.
chickens, and that would be take it to a whole new level of seriousness, which again I don't think Jerry Seinfeld would be interested in doing. So yeah, you could do that, but I don't. Yeah, then it'll take away from kind of the light-hearted
Yes.
tone that you are going for. But you'd have to be I don't know, a member of PETA to really want to do that kind
Yes.
of film. Yes. Anyway, and to be fair, a lot of celebrities are in PETA.
That's true.
That is the celebrity animal rights group. PETA. But anyway, yeah, so again, I thought bees were treated well in beekeeping. Apparently they are smoked or whatever it's called.
Yes, yeah, I think that is definitely a thing.
But the thing is, it's not that bad, is it?
No, yeah. I think it's like it definitely. I don't think it hurts them. I can't imagine it would hurt them.
Well, it just knocks them out. That's what it does.
Yeah.
And then they get up in 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
It's not like, again, it's if bees were conscious beings.
Yeah, again, it wouldn't be okay.
It wouldn't be okay, but like crucially, humans do not know that bees are conscious human beings.
Yes, exactly.
And that is the difference, and that's what really Barry should be, focusing on his trial.
Yeah, just being like, hey, we're you can't abuse us or whatever. It makes more sense.
Like we've got rights as well because we're conscious, and but again, that's what the trial should focus on, but it doesn't because it's not really interested in that, as it maybe shouldn't because it's a stupid fucking movie. But anyway, yeah. So the bees have been violated. So Barry, what he wants to do then, I think I was thinking of another direction his character arc could go, because it could be Barry trying to be smart and get a bunch of honey to the hive. And contrast himself, to being a hard worker bee.
Oh yeah, so kind of like gaming the system.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you work hard, and that's how you get your honey. Well, I'm going to get the humans to give us their honey that they make, and I'll get more honey for the hive then.
Yeah, so kind of like a grift.
Yeah, well, not necessarily just a grift, maybe just a smart decision, because I mean he can use an ethical point. Obviously, like he does. And it's like, yeah, I can get more honey for my hive than you working all your life could ever dream of just in one day. Because there's more to life than just being a hard worker bee. You got to think outside the box, etc. Again, but they don't do that with his character either. But anyway, so Barry's mission attracts wide attention from bees and humans alike, with countless spectators attending the trial, although Barry is up against the tough defense attorney Leighton T. Montgomery. This character is just like a southern lawyer, which is just comic relief, which has nothing really to do. It's just a trope they added in. Because it's a funny trope. That's it. Anyway, so obviously the first day goes well, and you got stupid trial stuff with Ray Liotta and Sting.
Yes, I did think the Sting thing was kind of. I liked when he revealed his real name as if it was like this massive shock that his name wasn't Sting.
Yes. I think that was okay, but they don't really. It should be like ironically funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, that's the issue with humor. But anyway, it's just a courtroom legal drama which takes up 30 minutes of the movie is not what you probably expected from B movie. Yeah, I will say. Anyway, then the lawyer gets stung, and then nothing happens really because the bees win because of the bee smoking thing. So the whole lawyer getting stung thing doesn't really have an effect because even Adam, the character that did it, doesn't die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that did feel kind of pointless.
Yeah, kind of pointless. And yeah, again, I don't know whether the bee smoking thing is a big enough issue for it to be an animal rights issue. But I suppose you're right, Michael. If it was, then Jerry Seinfeld probably wouldn't be interested in it because he's not. I don't get the sense he cares about animal rights.
I mean, I have heard some kind of PETA groups and things like that say that they are against honey, but I actually think I'm right in saying that it's because of apparently there are actually, and this is kind of ironic, there are environmental criticisms of honey farming. And obviously it's just ironic because the message at the end of the film is that by not farming honey, you're destroying the environment.
Yeah, but let's first talk about, as it turns out, Honex Industries, they stop producing honey, and that puts every bee out of a job, resulting in all the world's flowers beginning to die without any pollination. Yes. And, okay, I don't think this would happen, but anyway, it's a good message, hey, don't try to end this slavery that the bees were under.
Yes.
As then all the bees, or slaves as it were, just won't work, and then will just coast off their welfare checks. Sorry,
Yeah.
I mean the free honey they have now got. Yes.
Yes, so yeah, this film is very it's a very conservative message, and basically it's part of, so there's a series of videos by a guy called Big Joel, who I'll give a shout out, seeing I'm stealing his thing, but he basically did a thing where he kind of like did video essays on a succession of DreamWorks films, and basically what he pointed out is that the conclusion to pretty much every single one of the films is the key to happiness is to just go along with oppressive systems. And like basically the oppressive systems actually make people happy because they give people purpose or whatever else. And the thing is, this film is a little bit more complicated than that, but it's just a bit weird how kind of naive it is, because the way in which it's a bit more complicated is because obviously at the end, he's still doing his kind of like animal rights stuff and he's still like advocating for animals, but the flip side is that they do act as if he was a jerk for what he was doing, even though what he was doing was defending bees who were being forced to, you know, like against their will to make honey. And he's basically just created a situation where they can do it based on, you know, freedom and stuff.
Yes.
And obviously you have the line from Adam, who's like, hey, you know, I really liked making honey. And it like literally does feel like the most, like it feels like the kind of thing that a kind of wealthy middle class person would say in defense of capitalism. Like, hey, you know, I like having a job. And meanwhile, there's people in like sweatshops and stuff.
Yes.
Which of course, yeah, because it's kind of hilarious because obviously like the conclusion to what happens is like the conclusion to they're not getting their honey stolen is that they would get fair, kind of equitable or like reasonable compensation for their honey. So, you know, obviously maybe you could create a situation where it's like the bees don't want anything and that could create an issue. But like in theory, it's like, well, human beings still want honey and bees are still capable of creating honey. So maybe the humans could be like, hey, you know, we'll work out some kind of deal. But no, instead, yeah, they just have to, you know, accept that they've ruined everything. But,
Yeah, I know. So it's it's a bit of a conservative message. You know, the bees should just go back to picking cotton, and that's what made them.
Yes,
happy.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's so sad to see the bees just not doing anything with their lives, just homeless on the streets, and when they could be having doing something productive, like working in the fields and so on and so forth. Anyway,
they'll only spend that honey on drugs.
I know. Yes, again, that is the problem. Anyway, so I like how pollen apparently is a status symbol. Like,
oh yeah,
that's what they spend all their money on.
Yeah. You know what? I hate to say it, but I really do think that the problem is the music the bees are producing.
No,
it's just always got that pollen on their chains, cooling all of their bee women, bee hoes.
Do you know what I think, Michael? If the problem is with the bee community, it's the lack of mothers, right?
Yes, exactly.
There's only one.
That is true, actually. Yeah, you can't argue that.
There's only one. Anyway, the flowers die then, of course, because of the bees, and it shows again how important the bees are to the ecosystem, but they should still therefore be slaves, I guess. Like how the southern economy collapsed after the 1860s. I don't know if it did or not. I'm just trying to force through a comparison there.
Well, to be fair, if it did collapse, it also could have something to do with the war that happened.
Yes, that is true. Yes, it probably did destroy a lot of infrastructure in the south. But anyway, before long, the last remaining flowers of Earth are stockpiled in Pasadena, California, for the last Tournament of Roses parade. I mean, of course, naturally, that's what would happen.
Yes.
I don't know. It just seems very, very dumb. Barry and Vanessa travel to the parade and steal floats, which they do very easily. Then they load it into a plane.
I thought it was like a weird plan, because I'm like, why do they need to? Can't they just get the bees to go to Pasadena?
Nope.
Or just explain their plan to anyone? Because presumably people don't want. It's kind of weird because obviously people wouldn't want the flowers to die, but for some reason it has to be this weird covert mission. Yeah. Rather than Barry just being like, hey, I've got a solution to stop this problem.
Yes, no, but that creates tension, so that's what we need. And also, the bees can't fly to California because we need of course, the plane's pilot and co-pilot are unconscious, and Vanessa is forced to land the plane with help from Barry and the bees from Barry's hive. So they need to be there to save the day to help the plane land. I don't think it's physically possible for millions of bees to stop a fucking jumbo jet or whatever.
I was kind of wondering about that. There's got to be some number of bees that could carry a jumbo jet.
I mean, probably we're talking more bees than have ever existed in Earth's history. Probably.
Yeah, well, I actually found out that there are 1 billion bees per person.
Okay, that's a lot of bees, to be fair. Wow.
I know, yeah, because my fiance was saying that like I have too many bugs in my room because I was complaining about having bugs, and I was like, how many bugs are there per person? Sorry, did I say 1 billion bees?
Yes, you did.
Oh, sorry, I misspoke.
Oh,
1
that makes a
billion.
massive
Yeah, sorry, yeah,
difference.
that does make a difference. Sorry, yeah, there's 1 million insects per person.
Okay, that
so
makes, that, yeah,
obviously
that makes,
not. Yeah,
that makes a lot
yeah.
more
Sorry,
sense.
yes, that does make more sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I do
yes.
apologize.
Yes. Anyway, so the point is with the bees landing the plane. Like, I have no idea. I what they were thinking. I don't think they knew what they were doing at the end of the movie. They had to end the movie and they had to find like a climactic, exciting ending. So
Yeah.
so I think they just threw this together.
I mean, it's a pretty good kind of. Well, I don't know. Like,
I don't think it's
as
good.
a climax, it's kind of like it's like everybody comes together to save the day, which is kind of a nice thing to have in a climax.
Yeah, but like the bees and the humans weren't really arguing after the trial concluded.
No,
like,
yeah, that is true.
So I just think it's kind of pointless. And it's like, oh, they have to save the day because that will make it dramatic ending, and then you can end the movie. And then obviously, they reverse the damage to the world's flowers, and
Yeah.
Barry then runs a law firm with Vanessa, titled Insects at Law.
Yes.
Which handles disputes between animals and humans. And yeah, he's dealing with a lot more serious issues that actually, affect animals, like
Yeah, like cows.
yes, instead of fucking bees. But anyway, what a great story, eh? Bee movie.
Yes.
Let's conclude.
What a story, Mark.
You go first.
Okay, yes. So this film is, I mean, I said at the beginning, I described it as serviceable fun, and I kind of still feel like that's true. The reason, so I said like it's not kind of achieving the upper echelons of good kind of animated films, and that is because it's bad. That's because like I think other animated films have a lot more to say. This film does feel like it probably came from a genuine kind of like spark of an idea, but it's just like when it came to adding more to that idea, there wasn't as much there. And of course, the main thing I think you can see that in is the kind of plot on the way it just like, you have this thing, but then no, it's not that suddenly, and then you compare that to a better film where it's like what the character is established to have as kind of their main issue right from the beginning is their main issue going forward. Like, I mean, literally in, Toy Story, like pretty early on, it's established the conflict is Woody's worried about not being played with. It's said, in Bug's Life, Flick's not being appreciated because of his thinking outside the box, but then he saves the day by thinking outside the box, so on and so forth. So yeah, like that kind of aspect's missing. The kind of like messaging is just like it's kind of, I guess, like more concerning than the politics, because who really cares about the politics of B-movie, is kind of the lack of logic to it. The fact that like, well, look, if the bees can make honey for themselves, or like if the bees are going to be treated fairly, that doesn't translate to them not having to make honey, and like the logic of getting there is a bit silly. And yeah, obviously, you can't ignore the politics of, hey, you outlaw slavery and suddenly everything's worse.
Yeah.
All of that said, I
What's your
still
rating?
think the funniness is funny, and I did like that. I'm going to give it a low 6. So I'm putting it
Okay.
over the 5.
Wow.
There we go.
That's a high rating for fucking B movie. I am only going to give this a 4, because I think it's better than the likes of Minions, which I gave a 3 out of 10. Because, like you said, Michael, it doesn't seem like a cynical cash grab. I mean, they didn't make a lot of money from the looks of it, like Minions seemed. This seems like, oh yeah, Seinfeld actually cared about it, but it's just like really dumb and just not thought out well and ridiculous. And yeah, it's the joke. The humor isn't for me. The character arc isn't thought out. The plot isn't thought out. But at least at the end of the day, at the core of it, yeah, obviously it wasn't like a cash grab like Minions, so that bumps it up a bit. And yeah, some of the B world building was okay. I'll give it a bit of credit for some creativity there. But yeah, obviously, you can easily see why it was a meme. Again, just a bunch of very rich, successful people that came together to create a fucking B movie. And yeah, that will be part of Jerry Seinfeld's legacy. Fucking B movie. So, Michael, what are we reviewing next week? Is it going to be a better movie than B movie?
Well, we're going from one meme to another. A film which is only really, considered good because, ironically, and that's of course The Godfather.
The Godfather. Its 50-year anniversary. So join us next week for The Godfather. It'll be The Godfather of all our reviews. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and be happy. I don't know.
We'll be here the same time next week.
I wanted to shoot this movie with a BB gun.
All right, bye.
Bye.